They knew they were going to die. Even so, they stayed, not for glory, not for conquest, but to delay the end of the world as they knew it. This is not the story of a victory. It is the story of how a defeat changed everything. Thermopylae, the sacrifice that echoes to this day. Sparta lived under strict religious rules. It was forbidden to mobilize the entire army. Any military campaign was considered impure. At the time of the Persian invasion, two simultaneous sacred celebrations were taking place. The festival held annually in honor of Apollo Karneos, a shepherd or guardian god. Lasting 9 days, the festival included religious rituals, musical competitions, and military simulations, involving the purification of citizens and the suspension of warlike activities. And the Pan-Hellenic Olympic Games, respected throughout Greece. For the Spartans, violating religious rituals meant losing the favor of the gods, something worse than losing a battle. Around 7,000 Greeks marched to Thermopylae, a battle that could not be won. Among them were 300 Spartans, full citizens, elite hoplites, well-trained soldiers who gave their lives so that Greece could continue with freedom. Greater than at the beginning of the 5th century BC, the world was no longer the same. A single empire, the Persian, dominated lands stretching from Egypt to Central Asia, connecting peoples, armies, and cultures under an unprecedented administration. Millions of people obeyed a single will. Xerxes I, the greatest humanity had ever seen. Greece, on the other hand, was not a country. It was a collection of rival cities, proud, distrustful, and frequently at war with each other. Greek cities in Asia had already been absorbed. Neighboring kingdoms had become vassals, and ancient powers now sailed in service of a distant imperial center. Continental Greece, fragmented and divided, had ceased to be the center of its own destiny. For the first time, it faced a world organized on a continental scale, where the independence of the city-states seemed an exception about to disappear. But there was something the Persians didn't fully understand. For the Greeks, freedom was worth more than life. 10 years earlier, Xerxes' father had been defeated at Marathon. That wasn't just a military defeat, it was an imperial humiliation. Xerxes grew up hearing a promise, Greece will kneel. He didn't march only with soldiers. He marched with engineers, scribes, priests, and slaves. It was an invasion designed to be inevitable. For the invasion of Greece, the Persian Empire organized a multinational force. They recruited troops from across the empire: Medes, Persians, Babylonians, Egyptians, Scythians, Phoenicians. The Greeks knew they couldn't face the Persians in open battle, so they chose the terrain, Thermopylae, a narrow corridor between the mountain and the sea. In some places, a cart could barely pass. There, numbers wouldn't matter so much. It was the perfect place to die delaying the impossible. The king of Sparta, Leonidas, wasn't young. He wasn't impulsive. He was disciplined, and he knew exactly what was at stake. Sparta could only send 300 warriors, not out of cowardice, but because of a religious festival. Even so, Leonidas went, because sometimes the law needs to wait, and history doesn't. Xerxes followed a well-established Persian diplomatic tradition inherited from his father Darius I, instructing his messengers that, as a divinely legitimized king, he ruled by the will of the gods. Resisting the king was, therefore, resisting the order of the world. Cities that accepted Persian authority were spared. Maintaining local elites in power, their customs and religions respected, as long as they paid tribute and provided men or resources. The message was clear if they resisted: destruction, enslavement, and political annihilation. Xerxes sent a messenger to Sparta. "Lay down your arms." Leonidas responded with two words that have endured through the centuries: Malin Lab. Come and take them. It was not bravado, it was a verdict. The decision to resist the Persians came from the Hellenic League, led by Sparta and Athens, but the adherence was uneven. Each polis decided if, when, and with how many men to contribute. While Sparta sent few men, other city-states sent what they could based on proximity and capacity. Thus, recruitment aimed to hold back the enemy, not defeat them. It would buy time for Athens to evacuate and for the fleet to position itself at Artemisium. Leonidas was chosen as commander because he was the Spartan king, military prestige, a descendant of Heracles, symbolic authority. The first days of battles were intense. The Persians launched successive attacks, but the corridor negated their advantage. Shields clashed. Spears advanced in perfect synchronicity. Spartans fell, but Persians fell by the hundreds. Xerxes watched incredulous. The largest army in the world, stopped by a few hundred men. While the Spartans held the front, death came from behind. A Greek named Ephialtes, driven by the ambition to obtain gold, prestige, or political position, would seal the fate of the brave Greek resistance. He revealed a secret path through the mountain, narrow, steep, invisible to those coming from the sea. Leonidas was warned, and then he made his final decision. Leonidas dismissed most of the allies. Those who remained were the 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, 400 Thebans. They knew there would be no retreat. The spears broke, the swords fell. They fought with shields, then with their hands, then with their own bodies. Leonidas died, but no one fled. Thermopylae fell. There was no surprise, there was silence. Among the Greek leadership, especially in Athens and Sparta, it was known that Thermopylae could not be held indefinitely. Leonidas's mission was to buy time, not to win. When messengers confirmed the fall of the pass, there was no immediate panic. There was silence, followed by quick decisions. Thermopylae had fulfilled its role. The road to Greece was open, but something had changed. The Persians now knew Greece would not kneel easily. Months later, the Greeks would win at sea, then on land, because they bought time bought with lives. Sometimes it's not victory that changes history. It's the courage to resist when there is no hope. If you liked it, share it and tell us which part of the story moved you the most. If this story still resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, because some battles never end.